Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video, and it is now time to update the monthly tier list. And just like the title says, we have a huge revamp that I did. New year, new tier list, kinda not really. But as you can see, this is currently empty. Why is it empty? Because we are now splitting out the old 5-star characters from the EXs, the EX Unbounds, and the newly awakened old 5-star characters that are EXs now, like this Yuki, Shizu, the Octagram units that, the three of them that have it right now. So I have gone through and I have made changes to the existing list. So I will put links to all of these in the comments so you can take a look at it. But looking at the old 5-star list, it is only the 5 stars and their skill fusions. Because the EX upgrades are tied to dupe levels and such things, I'm going to leave them on this side and the new side if they have an EX upgrade, so people can see where they would fit if they're not upgraded, if they're not skill fused versus if they are upgraded and skill fused. Because if they're upgraded, I assume, you can assume they're skill fused, but maybe they're not. But this is the first time we're going to do it like this format, so there is room for correction in the coming months. But looking at it, we've kind of deleted all the subtitles off of this except for the trash, and we have pretty much moved everyone down because none of these characters are godly anymore. They are still really good. Guy, Fused, Lumi, Hero, whether fused or not fused, they are still the best units, I think, out of all of these characters. And then A tier, full of the units that are good on most teams, but, need a little bit of setup or need a little help or only do a certain thing for a certain type, but still fairly good characters. The skill fusion, the double skill fusion for Groom Rimuru is now up here because he's just an Isis, but with a little bit extra going on. B tier, the big three and the skill points are still here. They're not EX units at all, so they will exist here in this tier. And then everyone else is just, supports or damage or terrible units or whatever. So this is the old 5 stars. This will no longer get updated unless the other characters get their skill fusions, because every character coming out now is either a free-to-play battle unit or an EX character. EX Unbound, no less. So this probably not going to get touched for the most part heavily ever again. Again, except for future skill fusions for the characters that don't already have them, which is not that many nowadays. So just keep that in mind. Again, I'll have links to all 4 of these lists in the comments below so people can take a look at it. But there's the revamp for the old 5-star characters. And we do have to rank the 2 skill fusions for the characters that did get them. Technically 3, but Shizu is already up here and she's going to stay in C tier. I don't think her orb change really makes her any better or worse. Yuki being now a fairly solid support character. I mean, where is he right now? He's up in C tier. I'm actually going to move him up into B tier, because he is giving quite a bit of support to Adventurer and other allies now with that EX alt buff and then the alt resistance down. So I think he's got some value. And then Frieren, I mean, whoop-de-doo, I guess. Cool. I mean, she's in C tier. She's going to stay in C tier. We'll just put her next to her. She, her skill fusion, her second skill fusion doesn't really do anything for me. You get a little bit extra heal. Okay, cool, whatever. But yep, those are the basic 5-star characters now. Moving on to the free-to-play units, I've also redone this a bit. We've moved characters around. Very good. I've moved some characters out. I moved a lot of characters down. So very good. Water Rimuru, Isis, Bride Trya, Vengeance Yome for the most part, even though Vengeance is heavily nerfed now. Rieger and Veldora still top tier units for free to play is concerned. Ramris, Geld, Sufia, Eren, and Gobta I think are decent characters. They can fit on teams that need them. And then once we get lower than that, we start getting very finicky with our stuff. So Cleash, her magic debuff is terrible. She's got an orb change though. You've got an alt swap, and you've got a physical debuff and synergy buff for commander allies or physical allies. So I mean, limitations exist. Darkness has the taunt, but you can't get her anyways. Shion's buffing crit damage for physical allies and an orb change. Rita's has the orb change and the shield, which is cool. I mean, you could maybe even put her up in an A tier, but I'm going to leave her in B for now. Cleesh is fine. Frey is fine, if not old. I mean, I might even put her down here. She's got the orb giveaway, so yeah, we'll do this. And then everyone else, I think, can speak for themselves. Diablo needs to be on a New Year's team. And Nabe needs to be on a Stern of Spirit, Primal Demon, Ogre's Pride, Divine General, fuck you. So very much limitations exist for these characters. And then these are just very, very old, and these are just awful. So Stark, being the new free-to-play battle unit, has that double alt swap for light characters, which means he's a bit limited. But he also has that taunt with the inability to die. So he taunts and he has grit. So for the 3 times that you can do that, he is invincible, which you cannot say about a lot of other characters in this game. So already, I'm actually going to put him into decent tier. The alt swap is a bit limited, but the ability to stay alive, if you need someone to stay alive and you need someone to tank some big damage, he can give you solid value. But he's not going to be used on every team that needs him, unlike I think these characters would be. So A tier for him, I think, is fair right now. And if he does see more use and more defensive metas or more stages that need you to tank damage, then he might move up into the S tier. In the future, though. This is his first month. I think he ranks well in the A tier. Alright, protection characters also moved a lot of people down. A lot of people went into trash. They're old, they're 4-star protectors that were up in like the D and C tiers. Now, we pushed them all down. We don't use these fucking units at all. So, sorry, not sorry if someone you like is down here. Mostly people might cry about Octogram Reamer. Maybe not most people, but some people will cry about that. But, yeah, I mean, how often do you use any of these people at this point? They're just not good. Maybe you can see some niche for Dark Rimuru on like a 5-star only stage, but that's not the majority of the game. Meh tier, Soka, sorry, my girl, but you're just bad now. Gabiru, these are all old protectors or free to play as well, but at least these are a little bit more usable than these ones. Limited tier, for the most part, you do have an EX protector or 2 down here, Template Trainee and Mirren for their follow-up orbs. That's just not a good gimmick. It just immediately deletes them from most content viability. And then, B tier, older, but still, technically viable on their specific teams. Decent, Veldora and Light Shuna are still good. Light Shuna's come down quite a bit. Maribel and Albus being defensive, doing kind of the same things, but not really. Not good on every stage, but definitely there. Konosuba Rimuru can work. Very power crept now, but can work. Milim, same thing with her. Very good. Masayuki, man. Even if you have the full power of money and whaling, which is why I have a money sign here, if you have his entire team, he's still not that great to use. Shion has come down. Vengeance Velzard and Idol Rimuru have also come down, which could be controversial to some, but Shion's damage output now is severely lacking in a lot of fights that you expect her to do much, and I think that her time is... She's a year old now at this point. She's exactly 1 year old. And these characters are newer than her, just simply put. Idol Rimuru only works on the Idol team, and if you don't have the Idol team, then you're shit out of luck. And you're shit out of luck anyways, because you can't pull for Rimuru to begin with. So that's why we've knocked him down. Vengeance Velzard, still really good for a lot of the early game content, but most current content that comes out, beatdown battles, the higher difficulty events that are type neutral, they, for some way, shape, or form, seal the ability to do Vengeance or cleanse their stacks, so she's not as useful anymore. They've very much power crept her out and made her not viable in current kind of meta events. So her usability has gone down for new stuff. She's still really good for old stuff. All these characters are really still good for old stuff, but you need to have a really good generic kit, which, some of these characters do. Guide being down here, he's, I think, just a slightly interesting option to Velzard. I still think Velzard's better for most things. Mills is still really good. Renard, VOC, Lumi, and Benimaru do have their uses as stacking, but not on every team, obviously because they're all blue. But then still in the top tier, Elmesia, Velzard, Overlord Rimuru, still tippity top options. green orbs teams, by the way, so you can see a little bit of disparity there. But, they allow for many, many different things. Elmesia, I mean, I could see arguments of moving her down to S tier, but she's doing like 6 things on the team. It's not her fault that Gazel sucks dick. So if we were to get more Divine General units that had orb changes, then she's going to see really good use. I mean, she's attacks stacking, skill resetting, sealing the ability to defend against the primary buffs. She's got the stacking skill point cap increase. She's got the cost reset. Like, she's doing so much that it's very, very difficult for me to mark her down anything other than godly, just based on how much actual stuff she's doing for the team. And then Rimuru, kind of a budget version of Elmesia now at this point, but also easier to use in some cases because you're not restricted to using Gazel or someone. And then Velzard is Velzard. So where do the new Frieren Protector collab unit stack? The Protector Milim cosplaying as Aura, she's going to be meh. I didn't even do a showcase for her. I didn't really feel the need to. Maybe I'll do it at the end of the month. Maybe I won't. But she's there. She works, technically. She's a stacking protector, technically. And she's better than the Orc. I'll tell you that much. But she's still free. Himmel, though. I think Himmel will join the tippity top tier. Oranges, still nerfed in some fights, becoming more prevalent. Very unrestricted as far as his team build is concerned. You could run him with anybody, and they'll all benefit. Element stacks, the extra skill points in oranges, the active and passive converting of orbs to oranges means that he's a one-man army, essentially. So I think he's also in the godly tier with these characters. So there is the update to the Protector list, and, I think we're doing good so far. Obviously, you let me know in the comments. My tier list is obviously very subjective. It's my opinion, not yours, so you could make your own tier list if you want. But I think these are fair rankings, which now leads me to do all of this work for the battle characters. So let me do that, and then I'll leave the new characters that we have to rank down below. Okay. Here is the tier list minus all the new additions that we have to make. I'm fairly happy with it. I might change a few things in the next couple of months of the updates, but I'm fairly solid on a lot of these. Like trash tier, like both of you were awful. You two were just not good for really anything except a defense team, and even then, it's like, I wouldn't really put you on Vengeance anyways. Veldora, regardless of his skill fusion, is just not a good character. Bad tier, these are characters that just do not get used, are not very good at being used, or their buffs are so very situationally bad that it's hard to put them on a team. Some people might balk at Shizu being here, but I mean, how often do you really use her for her gimmick and her ult resistance down? We have so many other characters that do it now. Like, you want to compare her to Isis? Like, yeah, there's a lot of time in between, but Jesus Christ. Jean, Cosma, his buffs are bad. I should probably put you down here, actually. You're both awful. Shuna is just way underpowered. He's very situational, very not good. Not good. These two being the newest characters, like, it sucks a bit, but the fuck are you using them for? What are you using them for? At least Hinata's got, like, team-wide damage support. She's somewhere up here, up in B tier, limited. Like, these are just not good characters, in my opinion. Summer Lumi, her skill fusion bumps her up into B tier because it's easier to use because you don't have to do 5 protector stacks in a row to get it. Soka, I'm sorry, my girl, but all your units are terrible now. Both versions of Shizu are just meh, underpowered. You're heavily underpowered. C tier, damage only. Like, your entire job is DPS and you bring nothing or very little to the rest of the team. Which Ainz, I mean, he's giving you protection gauge, the Despair's shit, but, guaranteed crits for Stern of Spirit, magic buff, okay. He's got Lord's Ambition, personal buff in the gimmick, personal buffs, and a single orb change. Hinata, goes from a horrible damage dealer and an orb changer to an okay damage dealer and an orb changer. So it's like, but am I going to bring her on a blue team for her orb change over other characters? No. Summer Milim, the same thing. She also got the EX Awakening. So actually, I might be missing her. She would both of her versions would exist here. I'll add her in later on, but both unfused and not unbound would both be in the C tier here. Limited situational characters that really need help getting their buffs activated or can only buff very specific team builds. You know, Diablo, Hinata, Geist only doing certain elements and certain forces. Momiji, she's got a lot of buffs, but they're not doing that much, and it's very expensive. Lumi and Shinsha, and you can't really tell that Shinsha's skill fusion is right there, but it is there, I promise you. All these characters, they need setup. They need some kind of assistance, or they're just not overly strong to begin with. Coleus Rimuru might be the biggest kind of snub here, because he's still really good, but you need blue orbs, you need him on a blue team, he doesn't bring any damage, he's rainbow orb one time. He's a bit old now. VOC Jean, limitations exist for her. Prosper Rimuru, Festive Memories units. You get what I'm going for. The good tier, mostly generic buffs. Some limitations here. Physical magic. Elmesia's earth or fire, but alt resistance down, and she's probably the one of the two strongest EX characters that are earth. They can be used in most teams. Great units will encompass the triple orb stealers, so Hinata, Shuna, Masked Hero, and units that are pretty viable on most teams. Benimaru, physical again. Rimuru, one-time alt swap for Rainbow's attack buff is generic. Shinsha's, maybe she's down into A tier next month. Blanc, maybe as well. Raphael, the stacks are good, but you need someone else to help him get like a lot of the stacks, which is Diablo. And then Momiji, her kit is good enough, and she's got the orb change. The amazing characters are characters who are generally amazing on any team. You'll notice that, Overlord Shizu, Vengeance Raphael, not up in the top tier anymore. They're still amazing characters, right? But they're not the characters that runs the game, that is on pretty much every team now, which is Diablo. ODL Milim, you could put her on a team. She's either buffing herself or giving rainbows to somebody else. Commander Shizu, still great in my opinion. Overlord Shizu and Blanc, still good at what they're meant to do. The Masked Hero, some people might put her up there. As time goes on, we are using her more and more and more. It's just sad that she's on a shit team and her banner was awful. But right now, we're going to leave her down in SS. She's still an amazing character. Violet has stood the test of time, over a year now at this point. Vengeance Raphael, heavily nerfed on new content, but still good for literally everything else. And then Awakened Isis, good, but after turn 5, she's just not useful anymore. Same with Kyoko. But now let's begin the process of adding in the other characters. First off, Tempest Elite Rimuru, damage only. He is just a DPS character. Octogram Leon, no. Yuki, I think, is limited, situational. With his adventure EX buff and the alt resistance down, can be useful. Certainly not a bad character, but not anything higher than this. Fire Shizu, as an EX character, she doesn't do much, so whoop-de-fucking-do. Daggerel is going to match Elmesia as the 1 and 2 spots of best Earth character in the game, along with Guy. When some people might think that Guy actually belongs a little bit lower now, but they are both good. I think Daggerel is actually a little better than Elmesia because he's much cheaper, but he's also not supporting anybody else. But we're going to leave him up in A tier for now. And then Octogram Milim, she's just damage only. Even at Unbound status, you have an EX alt. You're not doing anything for the rest of the team, realistically. So, whoop-de-doo. Bride Shuna, with her skill fusion and the Awakening, doesn't really do anything. Her skill fusion is actually terrible, but it is better, quote-unquote. She's still a triple orb stealer, so she's still great. And then New Year's Blessing Rimuru, also up in the amazing tier for just his rainbow orbs. I need to put his unskill fused version in here as well. So both him and Milim I need to write down. But that takes care of the skill fusions and the EX upgraded units. I expect most of the 5 stars that get EX upgraded off of this list onto this list are going to probably be down here. Because if I'm trying to compare an EX Unbound Fire OG Shizu to an EX Unbound character up here, like there is just, it's hilarious. So they're mostly going to occupy the trash tier because we are grading on probably a much harder scale than what these characters are being graded on now. But now we can get to the actual 3 new summonable characters for the Frieren collab. Frieren herself, Raphael, and Fern. Let's start with the controversial one. Raphael is going to go alongside all the other triple orb stealers in the Great tab. Some people think she's a lot better. Some people think she's a lot worse. The fact that you have a triple orb steal means that you have good viability on a number of teams and Jubilees and Valor Cups. The weakness resistance down is situational. It's only good for your buffer in the events that you can actually B-type advantage. Otherwise, it's a very expensive attack buff. 90 skill points for a 70% attack buff is not what I would call great. But being a triple orb stealer, changing to oranges can and cannot be a good thing for you, depending, again, situationally. But you will exist in the S tier. Frieren, AoE DPS, some support. She's got that Magic Unleashed skill, I think is going to go into the great tier. Being AoE and light, so you're type neutral against everything except dark, of which your type advantage, means that you can nuke fairly well. Her buff, guaranteed synergy, while by itself not very strong, but 120% ult damage for everybody, that's pretty strong. And then, again, her second skill with the Unleash Magic deletes all the debuffs off of you, gives you extra attack, puts the debuff on the enemy. Like, that can be useful not only for herself, but for other units that need to nuke, and the debuff certainly does help alongside the nuke and synergy. And then that brings us to Fern, who was just a very, very expensive... I think she's actually comparable to Momiji, where she's got very expensive buffs. They're doing a lot of things, and she also has one part of it that's quite selfish. Momiji has the fire attack. Fern has the magic attack. But it's just the raw power. The raw power that she is going to bring other characters, because if you try and damage test Momiji's support versus Fern's support, it's not a contest. So you're going to go into great. I need to see a few more teams come out for me to maybe move Fern up into SS amazing tier, because 180 skill points is a huge ask. It's a lot of skill points. You're getting a lot out of it, but it's a lot of cost. So I want to see how well we can put her on other teams in the future before we move her up surreptitiously. So there is the brand new EX and EX Unbound only tier list, with Diablo as the sole godly unit right now, in my opinion. These other characters, very, very, very good. Let's not, like, just because you're not in God does not make you trash, right? No, there's a trash tier specifically for that reason, and I don't think anyone would argue against these picks. So, let me know how you guys feel, one, about this revamp and the splitting of the battle units between the old 5-stars and the new EXs. And do you agree, with the generic rankings overall where I've put everyone? Let me know your thoughts. This is the first one, and as time goes on, my opinions on these units will change, but it's been a long time since I've done a full revamp of the tier list, and I think we've got a pretty good list right now that is always, one, up for interpretation, and two, always available to tweak. But that's it for me, guys. Take it easy, and I will see you all later.